All right, let's talk about a super common frustration when you're building with AI. Agents that feel like they have total amnesia. Today, we're going to look at a pretty simple feature in Amazon Bedrock that can give your agent a memory, turning it from a forgetful bot into a smart, personalized assistant.
So you've built this awesome agent, right? But does it feel like it's stuck in a loop? Like it asks for the same info over and over again? Yeah, it's a classic problem. It's that feeling when every single interaction is treated like the very first one, because your agent just has no memory of what happened before.
So let's put a name to this problem. I like to call it the agent with amnesia. At its heart, the technical term for this is statelessness. Without a way to pass along context, things like who the user is or what they did 5 minutes ago, your agent is basically flying blind. It has no memory, and that means it just can't deliver those personalized, truly helpful experiences we're all trying to build. So how do we fix it? Well, the answer is pretty simple, actually. We have to give our agent the power of context.
And in Amazon Bedrock, the solution is something called custom headers. Think of them like a little sticky note that you pass to the agent behind the scenes along with the user's actual message. So instead of cluttering up the user's prompt with technical stuff like user IDs, you just send that information quietly in the background. It keeps everything neat and tidy.
Now, these custom headers really have two main jobs. On the left, you've got custom metadata. This is for things like user preferences, session IDs, maybe some trace context. And the key rule here is that the header name must start with that long X-Amzn prefix. That's the signal to Bedrock that this data is for your agent. Then on the right, you've got authentication. This is specifically for security tokens like a JWT, and for that, you use the standard authorization header that you see everywhere.
Okay, before we start coding, we've got to know the rules of the road. There are a few important constraints you have to work with. There are really just 3 rules to burn into your brain. First, like we just saw, the naming has to be exact. Either it starts with that long custom prefix, or it's simply authorization. Second, keep it light. The value of any single header can't be more than 4 kilobytes. And finally, there's a hard limit on how many you can use at once.
And that number is 20. You get only 20 custom headers per runtime. That's your total budget for passing context this way, so you'll want to be thoughtful about how you use them.
All right, enough with the rules. Let's get our hands dirty and see how this actually works. It all boils down to a pretty straightforward 3-step process.
First, you're going to update your Python code so it's aware of the context. Second, you have to configure your agent to explicitly allow those specific headers. And third, you just pass the headers along when you call the agent. Let's walk through each one.
Okay, let's dive into the code. Step 1 is all about your agent's entry point function. First, you import requestContext. Then, right in your main function definition, you add context requestContext as an argument. This little type hint is the magic key. It tells the Bedrock runtime to create and inject a new context object right into your function, and that object is where all your custom header data will live.
Step 2 is a really important security step. Inside your AgentCore.json file, you need to define a requestHeaderAllowlist. Think of this as a gatekeeper. It puts you in total control. Only the exact header names that you list right here will ever be allowed to reach your agent's code. If someone tries to send anything else, it just gets dropped automatically.
And the final piece of the puzzle, calling the agent. When you invoke it, you just use the -h flag to attach your header. So in this example, we're passing a user ID with the value user-123. And that's literally it. Your agent goes from being completely clueless to knowing exactly who it's talking to.
Okay, so that's the core of it. But let's level up for a second and talk about a more advanced use case. What if you need to handle serious authentication, like with OAuth?
Well, you can pass a JSON Web Token, a JWT, directly to your agent. A JWT is basically a secure digital passport for your user. And this is a huge deal for building enterprise-level apps because now your agent can make decisions based on a user's verified identity and their specific permissions.
And what's really cool is how simple the configuration is. You just set the authorizer type to custom JWT in your JSON file, and then you allowlist the standard authorization header. The best part? The Bedrock runtime handles all the complicated token validation for you before the request even gets to your code.
So let's step back for a second. After all that, what have we actually done? What new powers does our agent have now?
Honestly, the takeaway here is massive.
Your agent is no longer starting from zero every single time. Now it can offer true personalization based on user preferences. It can maintain a coherent conversation across multiple requests by using a session ID, and can make secure, identity-aware decisions. Your agent has basically just graduated from a simple, forgetful tool to an intelligent partner.
So we've seen how just a few lines of configuration can give your agent the one thing it was desperately missing: a memory. By passing context through these custom headers, you unlock a whole new level of intelligence. And really, the only question left is, what kind of amazing, personalized, and secure experiences will you build with it?